The successor to Oldhim has arrived in the form of Yarl VR, perhaps the hero with the coolest name in Flesh and Blood. No, I'm just going to say it. The coolest name in Flesh and Blood. And he is appearing this November in the brand new Armory Deck Origins product. It's a product that is sort of an offshoot of the Armory deck, wherein a brand new hero to the game can be released into the wild. This is good for both new and returning players that want to sort of up their game if they've just recently started, and players that are longtime Guardian fans that want to pick up something new. This product is hopefully built for all of those players, and you can see down here it says Armory Deck Origins products. Being an offshoot of that sort of Armory Deck standard allows for the introduction of a brand new hero to the game by designing new cards specifically for the hero. That's sort of what we saw in a couple of areas and capacities with the previous Armory decks, where a couple of new cards would come out that were clearly designed for the wider class itself. But this is perhaps even more targeted than before. These cards might very well specifically be designed for Yarl here, and we'll talk about why in a moment. Now, I do want to point out this is coming with a price increase, and I'm not a huge fan of this. It goes to $60, and perhaps that price is going up because we have far more Majestics, and those Majestics are indeed going to be valuable, we can imagine. They are going to be powerful as well, and it does include one legendary equipment. Now, it also kind of begs the question, are these products going to include everything that you need for classic constructed play, which is what it says right here, but this is what they've said previous to this? Will it include your ability to play with arcane barrier pieces of equipment? My hope is the answer is yes. I very much hope that they've included arcane barrier into this, because now wizards are perhaps more prevalent than ever. That being said, there is a price increase, and it's most likely because we are now including a legendary and more Majestics than ever before into this deck. Now, what do you actually expect to see with this hero? Let's break it down a little bit. So his effect, first of all, past the 4 intellect, 40 health, and being able to play with earth cards and ice cards, is that whenever you play an ice card, you get to create a frostbite token in an opponent's exposed head, chest, arms, or leg zone. So no more are you just playing it and then just creating it in the arena. Now you can only create it in the exposed equipment spot. Now, what is an exposed zone? A zone is exposed if there's nothing there. So if you've already broken it, or perhaps your opponent has already broken it through its effect, then that equipment slot is now exposed and therefore can be frostbitten, which is perhaps even more thematic and perfect for an ice hero than ever before. And that is what Yarl is trying to do. He's trying to frostbite his opponent, slow them down after breaking their equipment. Now, of course, keep in mind, he is a Guardian. So Guardians get all the best equipments and very much the best weapons. I'm showing you Winter's Wail here, not because you can play it, because it has rotated out with Oldhim, but to just prove a point. This weapon was so good they removed it from Blitz. It was too good in Blitz. This was so good it was banned in Blitz. Okay, of course it rotated out in Classic Constructed, and if there's even something remotely close to this as a Majestic print in the Armory Origins deck, we could be in for a treat. Now, I do believe Jason Lai said that the equipment, or specifically the weapon that Yarl comes with, is his favorite in the game. And that tends to make me think it's pretty powerful or pretty synergistic with the hero. So expect a great equipment suite and a very strong weapon to come alongside this Elemental Guardian. Now, do keep in mind as well that he has access to Stalagmite. So if they get a one-handed weapon like this, Stalagmite comes back out to play, which does indeed create frostbites with impunity. Now, how does Yarl go about breaking equipment? Well, he's going to get a couple of pieces in this Armory deck, one of those being one of his specializations. He has two, the Crumble to Eternity and Unforgiving. The first one we'll talk about is Crumble to Eternity, which is an Earth, Ice, action. It's an aura that you play down. It costs you nothing. And it says when it enters the arena, you just put a -1 counter on an equipment. It could be yours for some reason. It could be your opponent's. That's the big one. And then, of course, at the beginning of your action phase, you pop this, and then your next attack this turn gains Dominate. Now, what would you like to dominate? Well, you could dominate Mangle. This is a Majestic I expect them to reprint in this product. Why? Well, it's the first sighting of Yarl VR, and it does exactly what he wants to do to activate his effect. It says Crush. If it deals 4 or more damage, Mangle will destroy target equipment they control with a -1 counter on it. And oh, by the way, you put the -1 counter there. If they didn't block with it, you literally put it on there, thanks to Crumble to Eternity. Now, if you need to get access to this card, well, just play Unforgetting Unforgiving, because it's a Yarl specialization. It's a Guardian block card. Blocks for 4, which is very good. And it says when this defends, if the attacking hero controls an equipment with -1 counter, you can search your deck for Mangle, banish it, and then shuffle, and then you play it during your next action phase. So yes, that's right. You can play Crumble to Eternity. You can put a -1 counter on it. You can give your next thing Dominate on your next turn when this destroys itself. You can block with Unforgetting Unforgiving. Then you can play Mangle with Dominate. Baseline for 8. That is a sequence that they have built in to this deck, because I very much believe, alongside of the 2 specializations we just looked at, Mangle will be printed. But how else can you go about this combo? Well, I expect to see Buckling Blow make a return. This was all the way back in the very first set of Flesh and Blood ever released. Welcome to Wraith had Buckling Blow, a 4-cost attack, same stat line as Mangle, as you can see, so 4 cost being a nice little recurring theme here. It says Crush. If it deals 4 or more damage to a hero, then you put a -1 counter on one of their pieces of equipment. So if you're able to load up their equipment with all these different -1 counter effects, you can get benefit off of Mangle. You can also get benefit off of Buckle, which is another art depicting none other than Yarl himself, this time without the helmet. And it says your next Guardian attack this turn gets +1 and Dominate, and when this hits a hero, destroy an equipment they control with a -1 counter on it. Yeah, and they can play Exposed to the Elements, a card that did see a slight play at certain times, but is now going to be incredible because it's an elemental instant that you can double fuse, and if you fuse it with Earth, then you put a -1 counter on an equipment. If you fuse it with Ice, you get to just destroy that equipment with the 0 block on it, unless they pay 2 for it. So yes, all of these pieces are starting to come together to show you how Yarl wants to go about his business, by breaking down your opponent's defenses and then freezing them out of the game. And you can use these big disruptive attacks to do Guardian things and just play above rate on just a very simple turn cycle. Block some cards, Buckling Blow, right? Off of the back, and I want to point this out, Tectonic Plating might be very good for this hero, because if all of these are sort of these like breakpoint costing 4 type attacks, well, making a Tectonic Plating, having resources floating, and spiraling this back and forth of like play big attack, make Tectonic Plating, play big attack, Tectonic Plating, play big attack. This could be a very simple pattern that Bravos of old used to do all the time. Terra Sunder, also a very powerful card that we might see. These are the very basic generic kind of Guardian cards. The Good Stuff package. Cranial Crush, a very good blue that could do some work. This is a new one we should talk about, because don't forget, it's not just Guardian cards that he has access to, but the Learn to Play, it's the First Strike Terra deck, which I have sitting right here actually. This Terra deck came with some cards that he can access, and some of them are pretty solid, like Seeds of Strength, which creates Might tokens, and if you've pitched an Earth card to play that, instead it creates 2 Might tokens. You might want to play this as a blue block 3 that you can also use to play a more aggressively leaning version of this hero. Keep in mind, we haven't even talked about the fact that there are Earth and Ice card pools that pull him in one direction or the other, and we will talk about those in just a minute, after we mention this card still exists. Yes, yes, Oaken Old, I do believe to be a card you should definitely pick up. If you are looking at this hero and going, this looks incredible, I want to play him, go buy a playset of Oaken Old now so that you can put this into the deck immediately. I'm not sure they're going to print this in the Armory deck. I think it would be smart, but at the same time, this is an easy pickup to just run out there and to slap into the deck. Why? Because it has an insane on hit. Earth and Ice Fusion, if you fuse this with both Earth and Ice, then it gets +2 Dominate, and if it hits a hero, they put 2 random cards from their hand. Random cards from their hand on the bottom of the deck in any order. They don't get to choose. This card's nuts. It is disgusting, and the fact that it is super playable in this hero means that Guardians are actually eating again. And of course I have to mention Pulverize because he's literally on the card. I mean, that's literally him. There he is. So yeah, of course you can play the most powerful attack in the game. Well, it was until Cosmic Awakening came around. Nevertheless, because he has access to Earth and Ice cards, we get to look at the packages that he could incorporate. Some of those are Old Faithful cards, like Channel Lake Frigid, if you're leaning into the Ice side, which you would want to do because his effect functions after you've broken a piece of equipment by playing ice cards so that you can create frost bites in that exposed zone. And Channel Lake Frigid is the best ice card in the game, arguably, if you're talking about hypothermia, maybe, I don't know. But Channel Lake Frigid, definitely one of the best, if not the best. Pulse of Eisenloft, a card that has oftentimes seen play in the other Guardians in Starfo and Oldhim, now just slaps right in. It's a perfect fuse target, and it can make you play a more defensive game plan. You could even lean into like the Winter's Bites of old, which we've seen heroes gravitate towards on the ice side of things oftentimes. But there's a variety of other ice cards that you can just kind of slap in and feel pretty comfortable about. I very much expect this to have Earth and Ice cards support, and brand new ones at that when his deck releases. The other side he can lean into, which is even more spicy now, thanks to the most recent Rosetta set, is the Earth side of things. Even though it doesn't function with his hero effect, now he has the capacity to play very powerful cards like Felling of the Crown, Plow Under, and Rootbound Carapace, all thanks to these just easy to meet requirements of playing good Earth cards. There's a lot of good Earth cards right now, thanks to Rosetta, and there's a lot of payoff by playing Felling of the Crown and Plow Under. Just those simple attacks being able to meet the Decompose requirement if you've built the deck that way, allowing you to remove arsenals, remove cards from hand, and just win the turn cycle over and over again. There's also Seeds of Tomorrow. If you want to play more defensively, you have that capability. And one of the only tomes still available and around in Tome of Harvests to fix your hands in a moment's notice. Of course, we don't have access to Crown of Seeds, and there's probably a good reason why that is, because this plus Crown of Seeds would be very, very good. Well, really anything plus Crown of Seeds would be very, very good. But having access to a hand fix is a fantastic thing in general. And finally, because he has the capacity to really play towards a meta, cards like Channel the Bleak Expanse and Stamp Authority have some real potential in Yarl. So Yarl is looking very powerful already out of the gate, and let's be honest, any hero that has access to this many good cards is going to be a deck builder's dream. So if you're looking forward to the end of November when you can get your hands on this deck, sound off in a comment below. Tell me how you want to build it, more defensively, more mid-range, or more aggressive, just sort of stompy with maybe even pummels. I didn't even talk about that. You could play pummels in this deck. Sound off and let me know how you plan to construct this brand new Guardian hero. And if you enjoy talking about new heroes, make the number go up, because we here like to make the number go to another number. Generally, when the number gets like bigger, like larger numbers are cooler. As always, thanks for watching.